Hello there guys, and as you can see, I remade the background. That's right, I'm a good boy like that. So, today, as you already know, we're reviewing the Carnegie Deinosuchus. A really good model in my opinion. So let's get into it. This has been requested by, hold on, where's my piece of paper? This has been requested by Delta Dromius and Lucas Barletto. So good job you two for requesting this, because two people requested it. It's priority. Yeah. So let's get into the review, shall we? Now I am first going to start off with my favorite thing about this figure. That is the color scheme. The color scheme is great for two reasons. First off, I think it's really well applied, and I think it looks really good with the different colors it has, but still making it look realistic with the yellows and the grays and the blacks and the greens and the white stripe it has on the mouth, the gray eye. I think that although so is simplistic, I think the color scheme is really good. And the second reason I really like it is because it stands out. This is normal modern day crocodiles don't look like this. They just don't. And so this helps make you know, though, this isn't a modern day alligator. This is a prehistoric one. It helps add to your knowledge of that because it looks like this. That was my main complaint with the Safari Limited Megalodon, is it just looked like a great white. You had no way to tell. Now with Deinosuchus you could probably tell just because of how the animal looked in real life, which we will get into that when we get into accuracy. But just the fact that they gave it a different color I think is really good, because that's why if anyone ever makes a Titanoboa or a Megalania figure or something like that, you have to give it a color scheme that's not representing the modern day version, so that way you can recognize it and know it's something different. So now I have that over with. The next thing is the pose. It's like definitely flopped down on the ground. I like how you can see the belly and how it's just sculpted. Really makes it look as though it has a big belly that's being squished out because of the fact that it's sitting down on the ground. That looks really nice. The tail has this nice flick in it. The tail looks a little short in my opinion. I think it could do with being a tad bit longer. But this is already a decent sized figure in a moment, which is also good, the fact that this is a decent size, because Deinosuchus was a fairly large alligator. Well, alligatoroid technically. It was about twice the size of your average modern day alligator, which is pretty impressive. Most estimates put Deinosuchus at about just over 30 feet. That's about how big the biggest individuals got. You will see some estimates that put it more around 40 feet, but that's like maximum size. If you ever saw a 40-foot long Deinosuchus, that is a big animal, and that's a very unusual sized animal. So the fact that this is big is of course, you know, really good, because this is bigger than most modern day crocodilians. Fingers and toes seem pretty good to me. I can't tell because they're not painted, but they should, only the first three ones should have claws on them and the outer two shouldn't. I can't really tell if they have claws on them or not, but if they do then, oh no, they totally have claws on them. You can more so see it on this hand. So that's inaccurate. These two should not have any claws in them. It's like a ceratopsian. The back feet I think are good with how they look, but I'm not too sure. I'm no crocodilian expert, to be honest. And yeah, so the next thing is with accuracy. First up, we have the skull. The skull shape is wrong. It's based on the old, outdated reconstruction of the Deinosuchus skull, which we now know is inaccurate with now that we have more fossil material. First up, you can see how it narrows. Once you get to the eyes, the skull narrows. It shouldn't do that. At the eyes, the skull should really stay the exact same thickness. The skull didn't really narrow at all. It had a very broad skull. It is very accurate with these two big teeth right here, because it did have two big teeth right there, but it's lacking a notch in the skull. Well, it's kind of there, I guess, but I think it should be a bit more defined for those two teeth to fit into. And then the rest of the teeth look fairly good. After this, in this area, they should be big, but it should have a bunch of small teeth back here, and same thing with on the lower jaw. That's not representing. It should have a bunch of small teeth in the back of its mouth so it could crush things. That's one of the big issues, is the teeth. The teeth are very big and blunt, of course, for child play safety, but there's just overall a lack of them. It should have many more teeth in its mouth. As well as I think the two big teeth on the bottom were the biggest teeth in the entire mouth. And they're like the same size as the ones up here, which I know for a fact that the ones in this region were smaller than this. So that is unfortunate. And of course it should have many more teeth kind of sized like this towards the back of its mouth on both the upper and lower jaw. And it should have more of them, of course. The eye has a nice slit in it, which I think looks pretty decent. Nothing much to say there. The head sculpt looks very nice, very crocodilian-like. It's just the shape of it's inaccurate. The limbs are a little bit on, well, they're definitely on the large side. First off, for a crocodilian, they seem a little large to me in general, and you definitely shouldn't be doing this to a Deinosuchus because our material of Deinosuchus is pretty scrappy. We're not entirely too sure how big its limbs were, but they seem to have been more on the smaller side than the larger side. So this is definitely, no, don't do that. And my last big complaint about it is the osteoderms that cover its back, because this is not representative of Deinosuchus at all. Deinosuchus had a much more unique osteoderm covering than that of a modern day crocodilian. First off, the osteoderms are too small. They should be about twice that size. It had massive osteoderms compared to its body size. There's also just too many rows of them. Deinosuchus, again, we're a little unsure of how many rows it had. It at least had 4, but I can't imagine it had more than 8 rows going down its back just because they were so big that I don't really think it could have anywhere near this many osteoderms on its back. As well as they're just overall shaped wrong. You can see they are shaped more so like a modern day crocodile, which they shouldn't be because they also are very unique in shape. They should be round instead of square shaped. They should be round, and they should basically be like a dome. So like a small dome on the animal's back running along it. That's what they should look like. That's one of the most unique features, in my opinion, about Deinosuchus, well, that and its size, and so it really is a shame that it's not represented here. This is why I personally believe Safari Limited, if you're listening to this, please redo your Deinosuchus, make a new Deinosuchus, because this guy, he's pretty good, but he has accuracy issues, definite accuracy issues, as well as the fact that the sculpted pose is good, but it's not that great overall. I think if you redid a Deinosuchus and made a new one, then this would be perfect. Granted, 2019, our figures knowledge of that year, this year, well, next year, yeah, that's not out fully realized yet, so maybe you are making a Deinosuchus figure, who knows. But I really want a new one because it really is a very interesting crocodilian that I think should be represented more accurately. Anyways, that was my big ramble for the day. Also, one thing, if you're buying this figure, I think it does paint scratch easily because it has paint scratches on it that weren't on it when I bought it. So I'm assuming it scratches easily, so be aware of that. That's my thoughts on it. Now let's do size comparisons and figure out how big it is. So first up, for its length, this figure measures a whopping 10 inches long. You can't see that on the camera, but I assure you it is 10 inches long. And then here it is about 25 centimeters long. And then of course the height, it's barely high at all because it's on the ground. So yeah, that's its size. First up for size comparisons is our constant, the Safari Limited Feathered Velociraptor. As you can see, the Deinosuchus is definitely larger than him in both length and like overall mass. He's definitely bigger. Now for the Safari Ltd Tylosaurus, which I think this is a really good figure, very well unrepresented. They're not to scale. Tylosaurus was definitely a decent amount bigger than Deinosuchus, and so the fact that this figure is smaller is not represented of their actual sizes. And now for the figure we reviewed last time, the Safari Ltd Megalodon. Again, definitely out of scale. But yeah, so my overall thoughts on it, I give it a 7 out of 10. I think it's a really good figure. Really nice paint job. Has its accuracy issues. Has its issue with the pose. but had detail, I forgot to mention detail. Detail is really good, especially for an old Carnegie figure. It's exceptional. There we go. Yeah, so that's what I think about the Carnegie Deinosuchus. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section down below, and I will see you in the next video. Goodbye, Dinoman out.